Well, good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, Smite fans. SPL may be over, but that does not mean that the competitive scene for today is over. We've got a few more games coming your way from the North American SCC side of things. I'm Supersonic Blur. To help join me and break this stuff down is going to be Spooky, who's actually over there, not that way. I'm all over the place.
There's
But
no one over there.
Athenian Sages, Tyrian Weavers, these are the last two teams we've got to see on the NA side of things. And already, things seem to be shaping up. We're already getting a slight idea of what this meta is looking like for the SCC side of things.
Yeah, now we get to the real games, right? These are the games that everyone really wanted to see in pretty much this entire day, right? We got a little bit of taste of the EU side of things earlier this morning. Those were certainly interesting. I'm not sure how much of that meta we could take and apply to the NA side over here. My guess is just about nothing, given that we saw a Raijin solo over there. I'm expecting things to be a little bit more. I did. And I also saw an E-Shell twice. It won twice, which was not what I was expecting from that matchup. But over here on the NA side, I think we'll be seeing a little bit more standard stuff. If we're seeing the Raijins, I think they're going to the mid lane. Same with those Toths. Although, right, we're a patch behind still. We have seen a lot of assassins going into that mid lane. We've seen the Pele's coming out. We've seen the sets coming out. And while we are a patch behind technically, Pele is just as strong this current patch as she was last patch. Might actually be seeing some of that in the SCC as well.
We may very well be, and with that said, picks and bans for game one are ready. So we'll have to see whether or not any of these kind of picks do end up getting picked up here for game one. Athenian Sages are going to be first pick, and given how many gods there are now available that are so good, is first pick feeling better or worse now that with all these changes coming through for 10.9?
I think it really depends on your team and your particular game plan. You can choose either side and plan around that. I do personally prefer first pick still just a little bit because it can kind of allow you to set your opponents up. You know what's good, and you can make the decision on how you ban to kind of push your opponents towards a certain type of playstyle. Granted, some teams just don't follow those rules and they first pick things like Susano. Don't know if we'll see that here, but definitely do have to account for the comfort side of things. Meanwhile, in the bans, pretty standard stuff coming through. Olaran Thor, Chernobog, not going to be seeing any of those. Ganesh, Raijin on the other side. Those are just your standard top tier bans. Freya, not surprised to see her go down. It does still leave a few things up. Still got your supports you can look at. Athena, Ares, can look at some mid laners. This Amaterasu has been one that's been notably absent from the scene. Not because no one's picking her, but because she's pretty much always banned.
She has been pretty well prioritized. We've not necessarily seen too much of her SCC side of things, or SPL side of things, but SCC has been really liking this pick. A lot of respect towards it on the ban side of things. But the question is this solo side for Snaddy? Like, we've seen a fair few solo games where it kind of just becomes a stall fest. Sun Wukong has been quite highly prioritized on the EU side of things. I'm wondering whether or not the Tyrian Weavers want to grab that, because
Yemoja.
this hammer doesn't exactly have flex potential. You couldn't just pick up Amaterasu, Sun Wukong, and be okay, it seems.
You can run the Ama in support. She's got a stun. She's got a silence.
All right, yeah. I mean, you could also say you could run Sun Wukong jungle. I mean, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing we've seen.
We've seen Sun Wukong in the mid lane.
Now that brings me back. That was Chark mid days as well. Level 1 power pot, and you just ran at people. Oh, good times. Speaking of good times as well, Tyrian Weavers have grabbed themselves the Martichoras and the Yemoja. Are we thinking this is a Marty mid?
I mean, I would expect so. It's a little bit of a bait picking the Marty and the Yemoja together, because that immediately makes your opponents think, oh, that's a duo lane. That's a Hunter and a Guardian. Easy peasy. Marty, I do prefer in that mid lane, though. I think that's a pretty common consensus at this point. Likely seeing him go over just to that mid lane, get some pressure there. This is after the Marty nerfs, though, so not as potent as the Martichoras once was. We actually haven't seen a whole lot of priority paid towards this pick in recent days. I'm interested to see how it's going to stack up as we now get this Hades locked in. Likely to be the solo laner going against this Amaterasu, which I love. Hades is pure pressure in the lane. I'm going to go in. I'm going to clear the wave. If you try to do anything, you're going to die. Ama has negative pressure. This is a great pick into that Amaterasu. Does tend to fall off a little bit as the game scales onward, though. So we'll have to see how that ends up pairing out in the late game.
And with these top 3 picked off, second round of bans have come through. A lot of junglers taken off the table,
Love
though
that.
arguably you could say mid lane is taken off the table as well. Set, Pele taken out, Susano, and hell, even the Artemis. We literally just got done watching an Artemis mid from Big Man Ting, so there's some potential big things coming through with more hunters on the way. Tyrian Weavers. Hachiman, this is a god who's kind of really risen up the table. Like, Ram was still available if you wanted late game. There's on her for early aggression. But what is Hachiman bringing now?
Lots of safety. You're against the Soul. She's got tons of pressure in the early game. You're not going to be winning trades against Soul early on. So what do? You pick something that can safely sit back, scale up, get to a point where you can start fighting into her, and you just get to have a safe lane. I like this pick from them. And since they have this magical solo laner into Hades as well, them having 2 hunters is extremely potent. And Arachne is our pickup. She did get buffed, so she's not quite as unusual, but I haven't seen her in a comp setting just yet. In ranked, she's goated. She's great. Having a blast over there. In the competitive scene, though, that's always been where Arachne has struggled a little bit more. I don't know. This one's going to be interesting, Blur.
We have seen a little bit from the EU side. It was picked up a couple of games. I believe it was Niflheim Wargs who tried running it. She kind of focuses like a reverse Kali. Early game is where she's looking to be super aggressive. Then late game, she kind of falls off. But she can still 1v1 anyone incredibly well. Hopefully this Camazotz will be able to keep certain pace. But overall, Tyrian Weavers, they just look like they've got a super solid draft. Sages, though, it looks a little bit more, I want to say spicy, but that's the wrong kind of word. It feels like they're playing to their own strengths, because we haven't seen Soul in ages, and Arachne, like you mentioned, this is going to be one of the sort of first couple of times really seeing her for a while.
I think spicy is a good word for it. I mean, it's like you've said, we don't typically see the Soul. We don't typically see the Arachne. You've got this double mage composition up against the double hunters on the other side. This is actually a very interesting dynamic. And normally you would say, okay, well, they've got 2 mages. They don't have great objective burn, but it's Merlin and Soul. That's great shred around the objectives. This is an odd game where we have 2 mages on one side and no really strong secure from either side.
Certainly not going to be the case, but with picks and bans done, let's go ahead and jump on into the first game of the set between the Athenian Sages and Tyrian Weavers. Double Hunter versus Double Mage. Let's see which one of these 2 comps comes out the better here, Spooky.
Well, it's all down to the play on the field. Now, looking at the drafts alone, you can kind of expect a couple things here. You can kind of expect Weavers to have a little bit more pressure on the map in the right side and potentially the middle lane as well. But over on that left side, that's going to be all Sages for a good portion of the game, which makes the question mark on the map Jangaru. Is he going to play through the strong side? Is he going to try to get his dual lane ahead while they're at their strongest point? Or is he going to try to maybe mitigate some of the aggression on the other side of the map? Personally, I don't think Jangaru and this Arachne should be ganking Remakami. You're pretty much just giving him a bunch of heals if you try to do that. So for my money, I'm expecting Jangaru to go a little bit more towards this left side of the map, try to punish Promise It InMyZen before they get strong. If you can take down Yemoja before she's level 5, before she gets that River's Rebuke, you're looking pretty good there.
Well, already a little bit of early pressure here. Tyrian Weavers doing a fair bit of work over on the duo side. And as you said, Remakami's going to have so much pressure in the solo lane. So that's 2 out of 3 looking pretty good. And you always want to see that kind of look. 2 lanes ahead feels pretty nice for your jungler. Question is, this mid lane feels a little bit stalled out, but like you said, if Jangaru is going to be the one who's dictating this pace, is it Leia's job to follow it or just say, hey guys, please don't feed their jungler?
I think his duo lane is safe enough that Lairs doesn't really need to make a lot of rotations over there. I think they should absolutely be looking to dive Snaddy and put this Amaterasu behind. You can punish this Ama pick very effectively early on, And you've got Hades and Camazotz. That's really good dive. They both have great ways to kind of sustain in that tower, then get out of danger. I want to see Layers playing his own game, playing to their own tune, and just trying to play through their winning lanes. Martichoras, you could go either way. I think we're expecting Trypno to do more rotations than get rotations, personally. But it's certainly a place that he could look to visit.
We'll have to keep that in mind as 2 minutes roll around. No one looking towards the shield buff from the junglers. You saw a lot of that, but a lot of aggression coming through to InMyZen. As now Sol popped out that wing shard. Shell saves the life of InMyZen, but that's a very low health bar and no beads. For that side, Jangaru may have found themselves a potential target.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you expect from the Sages duo lane. Sure, the Weavers do get some early pressure in the first couple levels just because they have Yemoja, who's very effective at establishing that. But once you hit level 3, level 4, that all goes the way of the Sages. This Soul just has so much damage early on, and with the lockdown and mobility of Privative, you can expect to see a lot of aggressive plays coming through here. Already, Privative looking at this purple buff, trying to set up for a potential invade, kind of scouting out where the Weaver's jungler may be. If you take a look, he's actually helping Remakami secure his own blue buff, so this purple buff could be anyone's game here, but Renjaru on the shield, that's going to be tough.
It is, but at this point, Privative is just doing the duty of everyone who's looking for potential disruption. It's just make them waste as much time as possible, because look, Renjaru just got an entire wave to themselves for free. So what if InMyZen still got the buff? That wave is now pushing towards tower, and it gets this Soul ahead, which, if they're looking for the early game, getting Soul ahead seems pretty good.
Yeah, once Renjaru hits level 5, gets that Supernova online, whew, got CC immunity, tons of damage. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, about the Supernova isn't the damage it does or the CC immunity, but the ability to just kind of block off a path and say, no, you actually don't get to run there anymore. You combine that with Terra walls, you can funnel someone into a really bad spot very easily. And if you're looking to get Jangaru involved on things, those are two tools that are extremely effective to facilitate these ganks. However, both these junglers have really just been power farming for right now. Layers slightly ahead of Jangaru right now, but no one's really shown any face outside the jungle. It's just focusing on these camps, trying to hit their first items, get power spikes online. I can't say I blame them a whole lot for that, but as you mentioned, Arachne is kind of a reverse collie. The longer you wait to get involved, the weaker you're actually going to be when you actually do make that first rotation. As we say that, here he comes right now on that left side.
Maybe. Keep an eye on whether or not they go for the blink. There's a shield buff up, though, so they will instead turn their attention to the guaranteed farm. Hey, I don't mind this. It's guaranteed farm. They're at least near where a gank could happen, but also as well, note the Athenian Sages, they didn't look like they were playing up into the gank, so like, sometimes you get that in games, I feel, where your jungler says, hey, I'm going to gank, and so your support just starts running at people. I'm glad we didn't see that.
That's me. That's me for real.
Yeah, I was trying not to, you know, to subcast you, but at the same time,
no one even has to say they're coming. Honestly, I just run. I hold that W key down. You don't want me as a support, I promise. Nayhoo into trouble.
Nayhoo might want you as a support, if nothing else, just to enable him someone else to hide behind. As Trypno gets themselves first blood with the death from above. As meanwhile, Remakami, I believe, strips away Snaddy's buff with a little bit of help from Layers. And so that 5.5 minutes in, first blood going their way, game's opened up quite substantially. That's 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, that's a first blood bounty plus invade plus another kill as Remakami puts Snaddy down. He's got Layers over there still. He had a little bit of help on that one. Maybe it was an attempt at counter invading there. It got caught out. You can see that that cooldown buff did get dropped, so it might have been a skirmish over that itself. So far, Layers, 2 assists, been getting active, still a level ahead of Jangaru in the jungle. And it's all quiet on the Athenian front so far. We've been seeing some farming, a little bit of walking around, but we haven't seen a whole lot of fight come out of them since that level 3 fight, I believe it was, between Renjaru and Privative, pushing InMyZen, forcing out that shell. And it just feels like they're waiting a little bit too long here. They needed to make some kind of play. Granted, they have great scaling with Nayhoo and Snaddy on these 2 picks. buff does get stolen away there by Zen. Well, you know, they've got some time still. May just be the impatient NA player in me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, NA players, if you're not seeing 7 kills in the first 3 minutes, are you really playing the game? You know, it's like playing checkers with a sledgehammer, I always equate to. EU side is chess, precision. I mean, you know, it's the chess, it's the very precise, calculated, understanding 7 moves ahead. NA side of things, checkers with a sledgehammer. How far can you whack that piece and see where it lands? But so far, this doesn't seem too bad. I mean, Jangaru, for all they're worth, with this gooseberries, I actually want to hover over it. I believe they're still on the second one. Don't you need to do basic attack damage to gods to get that stacked? So they literally have done nothing to stack that up. Whereas on the other side, you can see, yeah, getting that stacked. I don't think Jangaru's hit anyone.
Hey, you know, he's got himself a golden blade. You know, he's got 301 player damage, Blur, all right? Pay some respect to the spiders. That's like 2 or 3 basics probably, plus a spider or 2. So he's done something. It was in mid lane at level 2.
I think it was like I was gonna say the level 2. I was gonna say it was level 2. He hit Trypno with the web, and that was it. But now, maybe Jangaru's gonna get some more damage in. The answer is yes. They get a single basic attack in. They force out the ult from InMyZen. Now Promise has made the counter return over this way. Privative trying to just get them some stacks. That is 3 stacks on the gooseberries. They are slowly building it up.
That's actually really big for them, though, because sure, Jangaru doesn't really get a whole lot out of that. He kind of just walks at InMyZen, but he forces out the ultimate, and it gives Renjaru all the time in the world to just burn that first tower down, which puts a little bit more gold back in their pockets. It's going to even up that 1k gold deficit a little bit more, bring it back to even. Granted, 1,000's not too far from even in the first place. But the Sages are now right back at parity. They're feeling pretty good, and they've opened up this left side of the map a little bit for themselves. With that tower being down, Renjaru can start looking at making some rotations, right? These waves are going to be pushed a little bit further forward, so Zen's not going to be in as good a position to contest these shield buffs. Not going to be in as ready position to go for his purple buff. You open up some invades there. If the Sages play their cards right, this early tower could lead to some good things for them.
It really could, and actually just taking a peek at the build, Renjaru here, going for a more traditional mage kind of build. First Book of Thoth, and now working on a second one. I thought Sol was supposed to be a basic attack ADC. I ain't seen something like this since Zero pulled it out several seasons ago. What's the thought process here?
Probably looking at getting the Nimble Bancroft later on, translating some of that magical power into attack speed. But also you have to account for the Soul passive as well, the heat that builds up, passively giving her more attack speed the more she basic attacks. She's by no means going to be throwing anything too slowly here, and Zen only has a balanced blade for his attack speed as well. They're not going to be too far apart. Might be far apart in health, though. It's Privative making the rotation.
Good bit of damage there, about 300 or so just on the Stellar Burst, which is nice. Jangaru was also lurking around this side, but I believe the Tyrian Weavers ward. Yep, still at 3. You keep an eye on that. I want a timer on how long it takes them to get this item stacked, because it's taken them a while. But Trypno caught out around the beacon. It's a huge amount of damage now up onto the web. Goes Jangaru, looking to try and answer them under the tower. Gets the pick off. That's a huge burst up on those gooseberry stacks. But more importantly, the kill. They will trade themselves out 1 for 1, though. Athenian Sages do get themselves on the board.
It's a nice pickup there. Now, Lairs isn't getting shut down by any means, but he was, you know, a little bit out of position there. Starts up a fight. He has the bat out of hell. Still actually has that, so not a whole lot taken down. But the ability to get Trypno out of the equation for a little bit, that's pretty big for the Sages. Did use the death from above, so not going to be a factor anymore. What that does, it opens up a few more rotation opportunities for Jangaru. Still at 44 stacks, did take the spill. He's back up on the map now. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him maybe make another rotation over there, try to get a little bit more damage online. All he really needs is a couple more good hits, and that thing will be stacked up easy peasy. At the same time, he's got the Golden Blade anyway, so I'm not sure how much the Golden Gooseberries are going to be doing for him, but any minion wave that he gets in front of will disappear very quickly.
Like I said the last time I saw the Gooseberry's Golden Blade, you get this weird situation where as well, let's say Promise tries to peel for Trypno in that, body blocking. You aren't body blocking it. The splash damage is pretty much all of your basic attack damage as well, so
Yeah.
it kind of makes you, it kind of lets you hit with almost cleave autos on everything.
Which makes it wonder how long he's going to hold on to those golden gooseberries. Normally, you see a lot of people swap them out for the tier 2. But if you're getting 100% cleave on everything, you might wait until you get the full tier 3 item before you try swapping that out. That's a little ways away from us still. Jangaru coming in for more stacks.
Oh, he's one stack away at this point. He does finally get it, but it's all damage onto Promise. Promises to try and return it around. It's a 3v3. The River's Rebuke is there. Actually, Jangaru blinks on forward. That forces away the support, but the damage from layers is so good. And InMyZen's made the rotation as well. It's a 4v3. Jangaru's too low. So this looks like this first beacon's going to be going the way of the Tyrian Weavers.
Man, this is such a difficult composition for the Sages to fight into. The Weavers have so much damage and so much safety. Like, what are you going to do to force layers out of a fight? Get him into the bat out of hell? Congratulations. Now he's just diving you from safety. What are you going to do to get Trypno out of the fight? Send him into his ult? Congratulations. Now he's dealing damage from safety. And then you add Promise into the equation. This River's Rebuke, the healing that comes through. It's so difficult for the Sages to actually put up a fight here. And I think in this mid game, they're going to struggle a lot to get anything done. Now, once you reach the late game and you get everyone online, get those builds, that looks a little bit better. Now, Jangaru starts up the Go Fury, but decides to drop as Trypno was pinged on the rotation there.
And they had it warded as well. A bit of a heat check there for the Athenian Sages. How quickly can we burst this? And you mentioned as well that Nayhoo and Renjaru, both these mages combined really well. They kind of work out not too badly with Jangaru as well. That Arachne passive, the lower something gets, the harder she hits. If they can get it down quickly, like this Pyromancer, you'll see just how quickly it goes. That's a Pyromancer immediately taken off the table. Tyrian Weavers couldn't get there in time to respond.
Yeah, incredibly fast burn from the Sages. If you get everyone there at once, that thing is just disappearing. Even Snaddy contributes a lot to that burn. Even if he doesn't hit it and get that passive going, just being in the proper stance will get you a little bit more damage going onto that objective a little bit faster. Everything that the Sages have drafted is built around these objectives, around the team fights around the objectives. Whereas the Tyrian Weavers, they can take a fight just about anywhere and feel pretty good about it. But it's really about locking people in. The Yemoja around objectives can be such a bane for what the Sages have drafted for. Because if you're all grouped up to shred down an objective, and Promise just says, oh, do you like water by chance? Do you like rivers? I have one for you. That takes another spill. Jangaru,
that's a big spill.
Oof.
Little 2v2 for the solo side. Bit awkward. And I like what you mentioned there. Tyrian Weavers can take a fight anywhere. So leads me to a good question here. Can they take a fight any when? Is there a time when the Athenian Sages are stronger than them? Do the Tyrian Weavers need to fight now? Or is their comp better late game as well?
I think the Weavers are playing things exactly as they should right now. They're being active in the early mid. That's where they're strongest. They're still good in the late game. But the Sages have Snaddy on Ama, Nayhoo on Merlin, and Renjaru on Assault. These are strong late-game characters, and you put Terra into the mix, they do outscale the Weavers. Now, it's not unwinnable in the late game. The Weavers have plenty of tools, notably the River's Rebuke, that can split these fights up or lock people in. You combine that with Remakami and Trypno, you've got a lot of damage coming through a really good fight. But Remakami has to put himself out of position in order to get the damage off. Layers has to dive in deep and relies on sustaining through these fights. If the Sages turn on him, burn him down, there's not a lot he can do there. The Weavers need to win this game probably before the 35-minute mark. You don't want to allow the Sages to reach level 20 full build and be in a good position. You want to have a Phoenix down at that point.
Let's hope that they can do so at this point in time. We're 16 minutes in, and the Weavers are not looking too bad in the kill side of things, but that gold lead hasn't really changed a whole lot. Most we've seen it is about this 1,000 gold mark. I think 1,200 right now. At best, we've ever really seen that. So, yeah, 700 gold at this point. And we saw the flirtatious glances towards the Gold Fury. And then we saw the Pyromancer taken down. It was. I mean, the two show up. They sort of flirt around with the idea. They don't invest too much. Now we're going to see whether or not they actually can pull this off. Privative is here as well. But Trypno and Promise are also around. And again, they just back this one away. The question I ask is, Sages have been the ones who have been leading these objective fights. Do Tyrian Weavers have to just let that happen? Or could they start pulling these objectives first?
I mean, they absolutely can start the objectives if they want to. But I think they have such a good counter engagement around them that they're perfectly fine just allowing the Sages to start looking at them first. And be careful, though, not to give them too much time, because otherwise, that happens.
Uh-oh. Whereas Rebuke funnels everyone through an escape hatch, but unfortunately just the rest of Tyrian Weavers aren't around at all. They sort of throw up a faux defense. They seem more interested in the beacon than anything else. The second one will show up, and it will be likely the Weavers who are able to do that. Remakami and Snaddy both go ahead and make their rotation here, but even so, Gold Fury's already down, and now it's actually the Sages who have that 1k gold lead.
Yeah, so I said the Weavers could let the Sages start the objectives, but that's with the assumption that they're actually going to be there before it goes down. Now, looking at the Pyromancer, they do pick that one up.
Well, this could be big.
Big chunk of damage. Good lord.
Promise does manage to disengage from this. Now Remakami looking to chase out anyone else. Jangaru getting eaten up by Layers, but Layers is forced into the old Pillars of Agony. Doesn't catch anyone, unfortunately. So the Weavers try to turn around a fight, but just got left a little dizzy in response. Sages managed to back themselves away from that. And I like that from the Sages. Try and poke and see if you can catch anyone off, but immediately recognize when it's good to turn.
Yeah, as soon as that Terra comes through, you know the Weavers are probably walking away from that fight. Nayhoo was able to put a good amount of damage out into Promise there at the start of things, which made it pretty hard for the Weavers to actually look for a fight off of that. But at the end of the day, they did get themselves the Pyromancer. They didn't lose anyone for it. Sure, they didn't return any kills, but it's 3 ults for 2 ults. Nayhoo doesn't really count as using an ult either way, so we're going to go ahead and call that one an even trade. Weavers still very much feeling pretty good here.
Looking at builds coming online, you can really see the Athenian Sages got a lot of good frontline coming through right now. Look at Snaddy, practically full build, all 4 items, defensive and helpful in these team fights. I mean, the aura's coming through. If they can get a second Gauntlet of Thebes, Jangaru is going to be so happy if Snaddy's pairing up with them.
It's going to be a very difficult job for the Weavers to actually burn through this composition. But at the same time, Jangaru's on a pick that has to go a little bit deeper than most to really find the value they're looking for. Ultimate, primarily used as a defensive tool. You're not looking to use that aggressively, so you're pretty much relying on the blink to get active there. Not too hard to keep that from happening. All you have to do is throw an attack or 2 at Jangaru, space them out, make sure they don't get free access to your backline. And even once they're there, Snaddy then has to find a way in as well. Most likely what we'll see is Snaddy leading the charge, using the Dazzling offensive,
like this,
and trying to facilitate the dive, much like Layers getting dove right now.
Good attempt. I was going to say, that could be the other thing, is just corralling members in to Jangaru to go ahead and grab them. There's the blink, because Jangaru really wants to take out Layers. Unfortunately, does not find them. Instead, the rest of the team gets aggressive. They'll trade out a tier 1 tower in the left side for a tier 1 tower in the mid lane. They might be looking for a little bit more as well. So both sides pushing up, but the Weavers, they're not too worried. Zen's just pushing down this left side tower, and look how quickly it melts.
That's the power of a hunter being left alone on a tower. He's got a full minion wave. He's going to go ahead and put some gold in the pockets of the Weavers there, pull back, get himself some farm. There's not really a whole lot on the map that the Sages can take in response to that. Weavers have a good grouping in mid, prevents them from really being able to push anything there. Beacon will be coming up, but it's not there yet. Fury's still down. Just look at that gold graph, Blur. It's just a roller coaster, up and down. Neither team able to hold on to anything here.
Certainly not. And bear in mind, the Sages, they are fighting against, I believe, 2 of the potential 6 buffs from this beacon here. It's a little bit of movement speed and power, if I remember correctly. So that just goes to show the Sages are in a very good position. Imagine if this was even in terms of those buffs. That would be a lot stronger for them. And now, coming on over into that 21-minute mark, you said 35 minutes. We have about 15 minutes left before the Sages can start turning the screw.
I'll be honest, I think the Sages have already reached a very good spot for themselves. Sure, you look at the scoreboard, 1 to 5, ooh, Sages are not doing so hot in those team fights. You look at the player damage, though, and you can see that there's a lot being sent both ways. The goal chart tells you exactly how this is going. Privative, Shell comes down, he's just dead.
I don't know how they just ended up being split so far away from the rest of the team, but Tyrian Weavers punish it very deftly at this point in time. Promise throws out as whatever they need to. Privative did try and get themselves a little bit of time, but look at this. Not wanting to waste any time. I was going to say maybe they go over towards the Fury, but no, they're over Fire Giant's side. So they're going to go for it right now. Remakami leading the front line, but beautiful Rivers Rebuke. You want in, you're going in the long way to get here. Fire Giant is taken and secured by the Weavers, but I don't know if they can get out unscathed. Remakami the first to fall, and Snaddy picks up that one, but they're looking for the fight.
Yeah, they want this one. They're feeling great about it. Nayhoo falls. Renjaru next up. Both backliners dead. It's still going.
Zen was actually trying to take a 1v1 against Jangaru. Forced the ult away as the members. Yeah, that is a 1 for 2 plus Fire Giant. Plus you got as well a pick-off before that on Privative. Plus you then got the Pyromancer as well. Weavers, yeah, they may have looked at your schedule and gone, oh guys, we gotta win this soon. They've really put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, they've accelerated quite a bit. And here I was, getting ready to say, oh, I think the Sages are in a position where they can start taking this game over slowly but surely. That Privative just way out of position. And that's what really broke things open for the Weavers. They found that one singular pick and said, okay, that is the biggest team fight ultimate that the Sages have. We still have all of ours. Let's just go for it. Sure, Remakami had expended the Pillars of Agony, but as long as you have the River's Rebuke, you can look at any single objective on the map when you have a 5v4 advantage. Now looking at the Primal Fury as well, Weaver's just stacking this lead up for themselves, pushing a little bit further, now at 4,000. You can expect they're going to start taking this tier 1 and mid lane off the board as well. Push it down to just the tier 2s to play with and restrict some of the map for the Sages here. This is looking much better for them now.
Definitely agreeing with that. The third of the beacons is going around. Jangaru did find 2 members, but opted instead not to do that. And I gotta look at this pick from Jangaru, and I feel like, man, imagine if that was a Kali. Same build, same kind of play style, hyper farm up, but you see a 2v1 situation like that, as a Kali, you're laughing, you're taking that. Arachne just can't.
Yeah, I really don't think Jangaru has gotten the value from this Arachne pick that they were really looking for. Didn't see a whole lot of activity in the early game. Now blinking in, Remakami is a target.
Goes for it, puts about half health onto them, and now Layers is actually left alone 3v1. The River's Rebuke splits the uprights on a lot of the members. And in that time, the Order Titan has been driven back. Chaos Titan now marching its way diligently down. Like you said, that mid-tier 2 tower was looked at, and the Weavers evaporated it thanks to a double Hunter comp. Now, do they go for a full siege on the mid-Phoenix here?
They've still got Titan. They've got fire on 4 members. Absolutely. Sure, they don't have the River's Rebuke, but they're walking in with this Titan here.
Go time in, poking it out. Need to get a little bit of damage onto the Phoenix. Instead, Snaddy tries to push everyone away. 4 members disengaged. Everyone else is trying to deal with this Titan. Big root comes through from Privative, but their health bar eats just too much damage. Death from above, almost enough to take them down, but not quite enough. The mid-Phoenix still stands, though. And finally, Tyrian Weavers get it. The Athenian Sages try to hold on, but there's just too much pressure right now.
Such good patience from the Weavers there. They were standing just at the very edge of that Phoenix, allowing the Titan to do the heavy lifting on it. And it forced the Sages into a spot where they had to make a decision. Privative says, okay, we're going to go forward. Let's hit the ult, try to drive them back. Because the Weavers had allowed themselves so much space, they take 1, maybe 2 steps back. They're out of the Phoenix, and they can turn that fight. They can start putting the damage into Privative. And then you have this choice. Okay, do we try to make the most of the Terra ult? Do we try to push into the Weavers when they still have Fire Giant? Or do we turn and burn the Titan down, try to keep our Phoenix alive a little bit longer? It's a bad choice either way. There's no good option there. Either way, Sages made the call. They burned that Titan down, and it extended their Phoenix life for a little bit. But there was no keeping that one alive. Weavers just played it immaculately.
Unfortunately for the Sages, their mid-Phoenix does fall. Not the worst to try and defend on the Fire Giant side of things, but at the same time, I do like what they're doing in the left. They've got 2 waves pushed up, so if this next Fire Giant doesn't go their way, they'll at least be safe. But Weavers don't even seem concerned about it. They just want to clear off this last tower standing without the Fire Giant, and no one from Sages is here.
I love this from the Weavers. This is such a good play. Get more pressure on the map. Open up these lanes. Get your minions pushing towards the Phoenix. The more Phoenixes you can pressure before a Fire Giant fight, the easier it's going to be for you. Because if the Sages try to clear out those minions, you're putting yourself at a numbers disadvantage. If you don't clear them out, you're not losing the Phoenix to these regular minion waves, but it is going to be chip damage. It adds up over time. And it's just one more thing that the Sages have to be wary of. It's gold that they're losing out on. It's XP they're losing out on. They're not in a great position right now, but their strongest place they could be in is around this objective. Fire Giant has fallen off of the Weavers. Now, it's not an even, but Snaddy, oh my, cannot get caught.
Cannot do so. As promised, finally there gets their sturdy stew online. So now there will be a little bit better. Yeah, they've been sat on 9 for a while. I was looking for it as 1v1 in the mid lane, jungle v jungle. Layers the slightly worse off until the healing comes through. Fire Giant dance more about the fight than the fire itself. Athenian Sages just trying to get whatever they can poke-wise, but even if they do, it's still a sustained v sustained kind of comp, and Tyrian Weavers are back on fire. It's at half. Only Snaddy is here.
The River's Rebuke comes up, blocks him off. Privative drops the Phantom Shell. The fight now breaks out.
It's pretty big. Layers up in the sky, trying to chase down Nayhoo, and Nayhoo does get away with an Aegis, but can't survive it long enough. Layers is the first one to find a kill here. Snaddy answers back, but even so, look at the direction this fight is going. It's all towards the Sages' base. They are being driven back as another pick ends up taking it. That was a decent fight from the Weavers, and it was all from River's Rebuke there. The second River's Rebuke comes out, Athenian Sages just can't find a way in, it seems.
Yeah, the Sages did what they had to do. Oh boy, Snaddy, don't get caught here. You're alive. Stay alive for as long as you can. They can't contest this any further. And wisely decide to back off for now. River's Rebuke is down. It's not going to block anyone off, but there's more than enough damage to do it. Sages knew they had to try to do something there. They couldn't allow the Fire Giant to go down for free. They pop the shell, run through, try to force the Weavers back as much as they can. Unfortunately for them, they're fighting into a gold deficit. The Weavers just have more items online, and the safety with which the Weavers can engage from banishment, Layers bad at hell, goes into the sky. Trypno, up into the sky, rain damage down. It's so hard to get a good front foot placed down for any of these fights for the Sages. They're constantly on the back end. Don't laugh at them. Come on now, Blur.
No. It's not that. It's not that. Sorry, it's a little interaction. I didn't know that you can proc his own sturdy stew with his Riptide. That's kind of a neat little interaction. Yeet yourself into battle, get some more protections. That's kind of fun. I like that.
And also pop your own Stone of Gaia, I do believe. Which no one is building, by the way.
I mean,
so
no.
Not really relevant. But if you need
imagine if that popped your own Could you imagine if that popped your own Magi's as well? Oh boy. Yemoja would go from the best god to one of the worst gods. Just pop a team's Magi.
Should be one of the best troll gods.
Team. I should be on the balance team. That's my first decree.
Get you out. Keep you out of there. Look, Weavers stepping up to a left side Phoenix now. Should see another siege coming through here. Oh, wow.
Oh, the River's Rebuke! Just about catches promise. Well, Privative, but even so, they go ahead and shell that one away. But again, that's a shell. That is the best team fight up for Sages down. They'll back up and do it again.
I'm surprised Privative dropped the Earthen Fury there. I would have held on to that. Sure, you have to expend the shell, but now the Weavers can just walk forward at you.
That's what they're going to try and do, though. Health bar's very low for the duo lane of Tyrian Weavers. Death from above. Snaddy too far forward. Eats a lot of damage, trying to just chip everyone away. Layers from bad out of hell. Swoops on through, but Snaddy's movement speed, they might just be able to disengage. But there's the blink. Layers secures that one. Jangaru could not take the 1v1. Mid Phoenix has also fallen in this time. And now the Sages are buckling under pressure. Renjaru gets caught by the Pillars of Agony. Just about gets to disengage. They're looking to try and get back to the Phoenix. But they can't do so. Jangaru, though, grabs a kill, but it's already too little too late. 2 Phoenixes are down.
Does at least stop this push here. It's not going to be anything further from the Weavers. Health bar is too low. Lost Layers. That's going to have to be the call-off for them now. Man, these Weavers are weaving one hell of a story so far. They're just dismantling the Sages thread by thread. And it just doesn't feel like there's a good group from the Sages so far. They're stepping forward, trying to put up some kind of defense, but Privative drops his ultimate and the shell. As 2 really big teamfight tools, they're just off the board before it even breaks out. And it kind of just signals to the Weavers that, okay, we can kind of do what we want now. Snaddy tries to go in for the dive, puts Trypno very low, but as we've talked about before so many times, low doesn't count because Trypno just goes into the sky and says, nah, man, nah, this damage is for you now. I don't even know how Snaddy survived for as long as he did. That was insane.
It certainly was, but just take a peek here at the Tyrian Weavers. Trypno and Layers both have 3k pots, and I just want to also make reference, I loved the puns, by the way, the whole tapestry stuff. I wanted to make an Ixchel pun, like, why is that on here? Because she has a line that's like, for you, a tapestry of pain, but I couldn't think of anything. Then I wanted to look at, like, shouldn't they have the Arachne because she was a weaver? You know, anyway, I'll workshop those for next one. Don't worry about
That's all right, that's all right.
That's more,
you just need to consult with the Sages of puns.
Growth. I do. I am but a Pungeon Master. These are the Sages here. As looking at now, again, no Fire Giant, but Tyrian Weavers, they're more than happy to try and take a siege without it, because just look at the pressure that's coming through. Layers is pushing down mid, forcing some attention, whereas everyone else, they've got minions pushing in onto this right side.
And this doesn't have to be a hard push either. The Weavers just need to get these fire minions into the base. They can take the Phoenix after that, or they can just pull back and go straight to this Fire Giant. They have so much space they can play with right now. The Sages, once again, they have no good options.
They really don't, and Jangaru's just getting out-poked by Layers. There's just no way to close that gap in onto them. As now, the 1v1 sort of happening towards mid, the 4v4 situation. The Weavers are not having a good time getting through. I have to think that Nayhoo's clearing the wave effectively to do that, so look at that. Fire Giant's coming up. I guess Tyrian Weavers will get themselves an enhanced Fire Giant, but it might not be the case. They might be going for a bait. There's all 4 members here. They were looking for Privative.
Ooh,
they just can't find them. There's a lot of damage goes through Trypno and Promise, all from Nayhoo there.
Wow, that was an arcane combo coming out from Nayhoo. The pull into the void just hit so many people there. Trypno nearly dies, and that gives Sages finally some room to play with here. And they've got mid lane Phoenix coming up shortly. They still have to be very wary about these fire minions and this enhanced Fire Giant, though. Weavers know the timer. They're going to go right to it. Snaddy is here. Sage is coming up. But do they have enough time?
I don't think they do at this point. Snaddy is in now or never situation, but the silences are there. Privative tries to march forward, but just doesn't feel comfortable pushing forward. There's no damage to dissuade them at this point in time. Finally breaking in to the Fire Giant pit, but it's too little too late, and the health bars are evaporating so fast. The Tyrian Weavers find another pick off onto Privative, and with all 5 with Fire Giant, I don't think they're going to have too much to worry about here. Remakami grabs another set of beads on Snaddy, so they will be able to disengage, but for just how long? Jangaru has been busy trying to PvE to safety. Now with the Fire Giant in tow, I don't think the Tyrian Weavers are going to worry about this Phoenix. It's gone already. This may very well just be the push that ends the game.
Got a left side bird up. No fire minions on it just yet. They can try to put up a defense, but it's all on Nayhoo.
Look how fast that Titan melts. Nayhoo falls down. But to be honest, the Titan was almost hit indirectly. Almost just, oh yeah, the Titan. I guess it's gone. The Titan was melted at the same speed as Nayhoo, which is absolutely incredible there. I believe we finished under that 35-minute mark, so that's exactly what you wanted to see. You said 35 minutes, Athenian Sages win. Tyrian Weavers said, oh, okay, let's win before that. And they do.
Yeah, they cleaned up incredibly well. It was so close throughout the early and mid game, neck and neck. Neither team able to really secure and hold on to a lead. We saw the graph. We saw the ups and the downs on it. It wasn't that there weren't any leads. It was just that they were being clawed back so quickly by the other side. Unfortunately, once you get the Fire Giant, that helps you establish a more significant lead. It's really hard to claw back from that kind of deficit. Privative made one mistake, like getting caught out too far, and that was what started the downward spiral for the Sages, and it allowed the Weavers to snowball into their victory.
And it was a hell of a victory to be able to pick it up and run. But now they've got to go ahead, reset, get back on into game 2, and hope they can get a draft, something like that. So before we can get there, we got to go ahead and get things set up. So we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have game 2 underway. Well, you said, Spooky, that game 1 needed to last less than 35 minutes. Well, the Athenian Sages may want to ray with it, and so Tyrian Weavers did exactly that. Take game number 1 in a fairly deft-looking position. One small mistake leads to a fire giant, leads to phoenixes going down, leads to just an insurmountable summit for the rest of the Athenian Sages to climb as we make our way towards game number 2 here. Are there any kind of major changes that you want to see? I mean, you know what I'm immediately going to say, Arachne change, but is it just something that maybe is a playstyle difference? Could you see a salty run back here and be okay with it? What are you expecting for game 2 picks and bans?
Well, I'm expecting Privative to not be halfway up the middle lane with no support around whatsoever this time. But yeah, I don't want to see the Arachne coming back. I think the biggest point was highlighted by you actually very well around the end of that game, where Arachne was trying to fight off layers from that mid lane Phoenix and was just getting poked out. There was nothing that Jangaru could do because he couldn't close the gap. He couldn't put any poke out from range. And so he just got pushed back and there was no defense to be had there. This Arachne just did nothing and did not fit the composition. Get rid of it, throw it else somewhere else, and just bring something else in. Bring a Daji or something. That's fine. We like Daji. We like Pele.
We do, but they were banned away, I believe, in this game. We'll have to see as we get on into picks and bans for game number 2, whether or not the same thing will happen, at the very least, whether or not we end up seeing this Arachne again. We can both hope not, but it's up to the Sages to decide that, and they do decide that they want that first pick again. And the Tyrian Weavers, from their perspective, whenever I look at these kind of games, if the team wins, I say take as much as you can back from that and make them make the changes. Is there anything here that the Tyrian Weavers could change on their bans that the Sages look like they had a good time with, or
Yemoja.
Are they looking for a run back? Yemoja?
Yemoja. I think that was by far the biggest problem that the Sages had. Promise just looked so good on it. Refused to allow his team to die. Created so much space for the River's Rebuke. If you are looking to ban something away, you can go for the Martichoras, I guess. I don't think that was the biggest problem in the Weaver's draft. Sure, it was doing great, but I think that Trypno was doing so well as a result of what Promise was doing for him. But wow, that's just a massive first pick. That's Chernobog. This is free.
You saying the game's done? That's free? I mean, with
it's
the 2
a free
picks still
Chernobog
open,
is what that is. That's just a free Chernobog for them. That's
I thought you meant it was a free. I think it was a free game at this point, but you seem convinced that this Chernobog's a big pick. I'm looking at this and saying there's a Freya Yemoja. That to me seems like a free game.
That's a very good duo lane. It's a very strong duo lane.
Yeah,
I will acknowledge that. But Chernobog is one of those hunters who can contest this Freya right now. He can. You make that face.
No.
I'm hoping that's about the Charon on the Nike, because
it's about
Chernobog,
the Charon.
The Charon, you don't
Chernobog
like the
is
Charon?
good, yes.
You don't love the
like
Charon
no.
here.
Not in support, because it doesn't do enough. It just kind of stands there. There's no CC at this point in time. That's what I'm worried about.
There's the silence. He's got a slow. He's got a global fear. More importantly, this Charon can hit the Freya. Chernobog gets so much attack speed just for free. He's going to be stacking up a massive shield off of this Charon. I love this pick here. Do you believe he also has pretty good shield damage as well? Yemoja does do some good shield damage herself as well. So there's some counter picks there already in the draft. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here. There's so many moving pieces. I'm expecting this set to be in the mid lane. We've seen a little bit of. Just a big switch up for Trypno from that Martichoras. It does have plenty of flex potential. It could go the way of Remakami in the solo lane or even layers in the jungle. Mostly we've been seeing him in the mid lane, so we'll have to see what that does.
You certainly will, but the Nike here,
almost
always an answer towards the Freya as a, hey, you want to pulse irradiate my team? I'm going to stand in front of you and say, no, barrier instead. So I do like that. This set pick, like you mentioned, a lot of flex potential there, but with this Hades, I mean, we did see Hades mid today, so again, it could be set solo if they feel so inclined. We'll have to see what that is. I do like the Sages get layers off of this Camazotz as well. Jangaru just did not have a good enough time being able to deal with them at all. But you looking at Morgan and Frey, and you ain't liking it.
No, I don't like Morgan Le Fay into this Yemoja. I think that's a very risky pick, very much relying on your Phantom Shell to get you out of dodge. You get cut out anywhere on this Morgan Le Fay, and it's not looking great. She does have some good self-peel. She's got the Dragon's Flight, does have that Glyph of Pain that can put the fear down. So if you're going into this set, which Susano does indicate to me, you do have some ways to get him off of you. But if the Yemoja makes a rotation, if this Yemoja just comes into your lane and says, hey, you like a River's Rebuke? No? Too bad. There's not a lot you can do about that.
Doesn't appear to be the case that you can do much about it, but the Sages looking to take us to a game 3. Tyrian Weavers trying to round out this week's SCC with a clean set of 2 hosts for the NA side of things. With the Susano picks set, I'm looking at a lunch of gods that can run you down. They got some tasty targets here. So let's see if we can go ahead and get on into game number 2 here with this set. And like you said, Chernobog first pick. It's actually going to be Chernobog mid. Wait.
Jangaru is on Morgan Le Fay?
All right, have fun explaining this one, please. I'm going to sit back and ask what the hell is going on.
Give me like a few minutes here to try to come up with an explanation for this. Jangaru wants to have some fun, and he likes Morgan Le Fay, I guess. If I'm down a game in this best of 3, Morgan Le Fay isn't the jungler I switched to from Arachne.
Huh.
But let's think about what it can bring, though, right? One, it allows Nayhoo to be on Chernobog, which just gives you a safer mid laner who can rotate anywhere. The plus is that you get to have Chernobog somewhere else. Jangaru does bring good CC from the Glyph. Namely, that fear is the biggest one that's going your way. But this also just feels like you're getting invaded by layers over and over, and Privative's just getting blasted over here in the duo.
As they just weren't able to clear out even the first wave at this point in time. So as a result, end up seeing InMyZen getting that level 2 alongside Promise, and they focus out a lot of damage. Now we do have to point this one out. Promise, you have not cooked up anything to start off this game. It's a bit unfortunate to see. No one tell Hazer, who asked an angry tweet. You still think, well, which one are you going to get then? Because, I mean, we saw what happened last game. It took him 28 minutes to get the stew stacked.
Well, you know, he's going for 30 minutes this time around. You know, he's just...
All right.
I mean, it's probably the sturdy stew. There's really nothing else that you're going to go for on the support, but Jangaru making an early rotation. Has a good flank.
This is a lot different. There's the blink. Big Dragonflight pushes 2 back, but the whoop... They will be able to get away in time. Promise is having to expend a shell here. But it's a little bit of pressure back for the Athenian Sages duo lane. Layers, however, not quite so able to make anything happen.
Yeah, it's just too bad that Jangaru isn't on a god who has, like, basic attack damage.
Okay.
First Blood does go the way of Trypno there. He gets to pick that one up. Excellent Wind Siphon. Coming out from Layers. And, man, how many lanes are the Weavers just going to bully over here? We've seen Privative getting a bunch of Pulsar Radiates getting thrown at him. Nayhoo goes down. We pop over to Snaddy. He's getting run at by Remakami. Weavers right now are still feeling the momentum from game number 1. They are feeling very strong. And really, if you're looking at the draft from the Sages, there's no reason the Weavers shouldn't feel good about this. They have 2 Assassins and a Freya staring down 2 Hunters and a Mage Jungle. This is like a dream for this draft that the Weavers have. And normally I'd be like, okay, well, you know, they just countered the Sages draft. They picked very well into them. Jangaru chose this Morgan Le Fay so late into the draft after already seeing Promise on Yemoja again, InMyZen on Freya, and the set coming through here. Like, I just don't like the pick. I don't like it, Blair.
Do you think maybe it was a miss here and they thought they wanted the Morrigan and they heard Morgan and went for that as Layers? Looking to make an answer back over on this right-hand side. A great Wind Siphon pulls them out of safety. And Beads will not save you this time, Renjaru. Another pick. Both credits around with Layers on it. And it's the same kind of thing. I thought that they were pushing back out from the mid lane, but no, they were biding their time for a blink and they looked to set up the same kind of thing. That Wind Siphon at this early stages, it's more about where it puts you rather than the damage, it seems.
Yeah, the ability... I've always said that displacement is, in my opinion, the best CC in the game. You can talk about knockups and knockbacks all you want. Oh man, Snaddy.
Snaddy? Actually?
Yeah, he's good.
Does get the dash in time. My goodness. But already they've expended the teleport to get here. And look at their health now.
Wow, that's just what Remakami brings on this Hades. So much damage, so much pressure.
Layers.
Keep an eye on layers. He's also making the loop around.
Blink.
Likely just looking for any buffs he can steal away. Blue isn't up, so probably gonna go somewhere else right now. He's still hovering around that area. He's got plenty of options. Might be looking for Nayhoo or these mid-harpies. I'm going for Nayhoo.
They're gonna do so. 2 fights in 2 lanes at this point in time. The River's Rebuke better than the River Styx, as it seems. As InMyZen picks up that kill. Trypno takes down Nayhoo before they can get around with the Living Nightmare. Fantastic play from the Weavers there. And Layers may be playing on a... Ooh, nice pick off there. Renjaru, a little bit of help there. Thankfully, Jangaru shows up to help pick up that one. But Layers may be playing Susano, but they're pretty much like Thanatos right now. They are a hovering death around in this jungle. Layers again still looking to try and find a pick. They find Jangaru, but it's a 2v1. I don't think they can win this one, but they can juke out as best they can. They break the ankles. They're getting away.
That is so tragic for the Sages. Now, I'm not saying that Morgan Le Fay isn't a good jungler. I'm just saying maybe if you had something with a little bit more mobility, the ability to chase down the Susano, you end up getting that kill. But either way, ultimate expended from Jangaru. Layers breaks the ankles, like you said, gets out cleanly. It's a small little win for the Weavers. Sages are finally on the board, did take down Promise. And on one hand, you're happy with just about anything you get right now. On the other hand, you got probably the least valuable kill on the board. Jangaru uses the blink and the ultimate, and really all they're walking away with is a single kill onto Promise. It's not really stymieing the bleed anywhere. Gold lead already 2,000, not even 6 minutes into this game right now, Blur. The Weavers are having a ball right now, and it's a little ball of yarn that are tossing around like they're kitty cats. And the ball is the Sages.
I see. And that goes back to unraveling them with the whole situation from the last game. They've taken the tapestry, torn it down, turned it back into yarn, and are now playing with it, which honestly kind of sums up this game right now. They tore apart game 1, and now they're just toying with the Weavers. Oh, that's the Sages.
Yeah, right now, the Sages do still have plenty of fight back potential, right? If they're allowed to scale up, they have a great team for it. Double Hunter always feels good around objectives. You've got Jangaru on a burst mage who does have some secure there as well. There's pieces to this puzzle. The problem is that they haven't been able to put them together, and Layers is just stacking layers and layers of ganks on top.
Whoa, that damage coming through from the ultimate there. Layers just never completely delete Snaddy's health bar. All set up from Remakami. Living Nightmare through. Remakami is in a bit of trouble. Cannot get away to safety at all. As Nayhoo picks up that one through the Living Nightmare, and a little bit of a return here. Jangaru now, it feels like Jangaru is trying to play catch-up to wherever Layers is rotating, but in doing so, the rest of the team is starting to get ahead from it.
That's pretty much what has to do at this point, right? Layers has the mobility. He's able to be just about anywhere he needs to be on the map, and Jangaru brings disruption to fights. If your team is not winning the lane, the disruption isn't going to do a whole lot. They're already on the back foot. All it's really doing is buying them time. So what do? You have to try to disrupt where the Weavers are going all in, where they're putting themselves out of position, and they've already expended some of their tools. Jangaru's recognized this, and he's able to turn some kills around. Great positioning from Jangaru on that gank. Space himself so that when Remakami tried to get away, he just knocks him back in. But it's still just trading these one-for-ones. It's not actually getting them ahead. They're not finding the shutdowns. They have to be able to kill. Trypno would be a good one.
Well, Trypno on the Kingslayer says, yeah, how about I kill you instead? Oh, very low there. The last point, but does manage to get away. Will the sticks be of any importance? No, it will not. It will just wave on by. Just pass them by. Meanwhile, the 1v1
Is that?
between these two hunters is going in favor of Renjaru. Will Heavenly Banner be enough? No, it will not. So no cool look away for the kill there. Instead, InMyZen gets to live and back to base.
He tried for the fadeaway. You always got to respect the fadeaway attempts. Even if it doesn't work, Renjaru knew what position he was in. Goes and forces the back from InMyZen. It's a TKO. Doesn't put any gold into his pockets directly, but allows him to take this wave, push one in. Zen should be able to get back to this lane in time to not really lose anything here. But now, Renjaru can rotate this purple buff, take that down, get some extra gold going his way. Notably, Zen's purple buff has only just spawned in. So, Sages could look for a sneaky play here. Doesn't look like they're looking for the pressure, though. It seems like they're just kind of allowing the Weavers to play their own game right now. And if you're at parity, there's an acceptability to that. But the Sages aren't at parity. They're getting destroyed right now.
Oh, yeah, again, another perfect displacement from the Wind Siphon. Pulls back into InMyZen's damage. Renjaru just can't do anything. Had beads, but just could not get them off in time. Reaction time's not available for him. As Privative, what are you doing here all alone, buddy?
Oh,
that is not where you want to be. Takes a quick trip back down to the River Styx just to say hi. Unfortunately, though, with that as it is, I wouldn't be surprised if Weavers head towards the Gold Fury here.
Do you think Privative enjoyed the 0.2 seconds of game he got to play there between the CC? He got to press one button, and then he was just dead, and he died to another piece of CC. Weavers take that Gold Fury cleanly, pushing themselves even further ahead, now approaching the 4,000 gold mark here at 10.5 minutes. It really just feels like the Weavers are doing whatever they want right now. They're just moving across the map, looking for anyone they can find. No, might run into someone here.
Ooh, that's a lot of damage. Well, Jangaru shows at least the mage does do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, that's the entire kit right there. And now, in another 1v1 situation, they ain't got the cooldowns to deal with that. So Layers will happily find themselves their third kill of the game, of which they've been a part of 8 out of a total of 9. Layers is absolutely running the entire map.
And I just never expected that 1v1 to go that way. I'm
really
shocked. I'm just shocked.
You thought a mage with no cooldowns could beat a fully health,
absolutely
fully returned from base? Wow.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's why we pick him in the jungle. Now, Layers is just having the time of his life right now. 3-0-5. Just one shy of 100% kill participation, which no fault of his own. He can't be everywhere at once, but he has been doing his best to facilitate just about every portion of this game so far. You don't see a ton of level leads coming out. There's about one level, half a level, multiple lanes there. Remakami feeling very good. He's got it himself ahead. InMyZen takes over to level 11 a little bit before Renjaru. The gold lead is what's really hurting the Sages right now. They have to find a way to slow this game down. And it really comes down to just warding and positioning, not being able to be caught out like they have been so many times. If you have to take a step back and not play aggressively, that's fine. They should absolutely be doing that. But instead, they're pushing up these lanes. They're opening themselves up to the gank opportunities. And look at this beacon. Like, it's still some fighting. And guess what? There it is.
In this situation, Promise just pulls out the river. Privative, left all alone, will roll themselves back on down. Hades even makes the rotation out from solo. The Tyrian Weavers do seem to like fighting around these beacons. But I do want to make a mention to a point that you said there. That was that overarching look at the gold. It's a 3.5, 4K gold lead. It's like half a level to a level at best. But the way that the Sages are reacting, the way that the Weavers are grouping up, it feels like this is like a 6, 7K gold lead, and everyone's got at least a level and a half over everyone. And, well, Promise does now at this point. But just look at this grouping up we're seeing for the Sages to try and take down Remakami. Remakami just gets to walk away from it for the most part. There may be a little bit of a chase out further. Good silence and fear will mean that they end up falling, but look how much damage Snaddy has taken.
Oh my.
They end up falling to tower damage, and Remakami gets the return kill.
It's honestly not even worth it, because Remakami didn't have really a gold bounty to him. He has 1 kill, and that's the kill he just got from the tower taking Snaddy down. That dive did not pay off for the Sages. Sure, they took someone off the board, but you're trading 1 for 1 when you really don't need to. You could have accepted just taking Remakami's beads, forcing him out, forcing him to reset. He doesn't have a teleport. Could have been some gold for you. Could have tried to make an invade on that blue buff as a result of it. Instead, you're getting just about nothing from this. Beads, forced out from Renjaru. Wow. Across the map, the Weavers are just playing aggressively. They're forcing the Sages into these awkward positions. I don't even want to say they're forcing it, right? I don't want to say that, Blur, because at that beacon, Sages put themselves in that spot. They didn't have vision in the Weavers' jungle, didn't have vision on any of the Weavers, and they still said, hey, you two want to maybe try to take the beacon against the other two? Where are the other teammates, you say? I don't know. We're not coming over. If your team isn't on the way to that beacon, you gotta just step out. You gotta just take the step back, acknowledge you're not getting that one. The Sages so far are just not playing like a 5-man team with communication between all 5 of them, and the Weavers are absolutely doing exactly that.
And they're doing a good job of it. But the question now is then, if you are the Sages, if you're in this game right now, what is your game plan to try and come back into this? Can you afford to just ride out this deficit to late game, or do you have to look at focusing some kind of a lead somewhere?
This is a deficit that isn't horrible for them. They can survive a 3k deficit. That's not game ending. They have to make sure it doesn't grow any further. They just have to start responding to things as a full unit. You can't be sending 1 or 2 people to check the Oni Fury because the Weavers are over there. Because the Weavers are there with 5. Pyromancer now started up. And Privative, look, Privative's going there by himself.
Privative is over there because the rest of it, the team, are trying to just dissuade here. InMyZen gets taken down in a 2v1 situation, but the Weavers can't get Pyromancer a good enough hold from the Sages. They find themselves a little foothold here. Freya's taking their first spill, getting Nayhoo a little bit of extra farm, but this River's Rebuke, hey, I've seen this play not a few minutes ago. Unfortunately for the Sages, fortunately for them rather, I should say, Privative does not end up falling like so, as Trypno dashes away. So Tyrian Weavers there try to make a fight happen. Instead, though, Zen's the one who ends up falling, but blink for blink. Jangaru looking to try and answer things back, and with the 2v1 situation, they're just about able to do so. But even so, Promise just answers it back. The support gets themselves a kill. They'll be able to get away. It's like they just might. Jangaru's going to chase it, though.
Speed buff. Charon also on his way. Privative could look for the CC, try to stop this.
Doesn't have it.
Nope. He's cutting it off. He had the flank, opts not to keep going, and you know what? I like that. I don't hate that decision because the Sages have been punished so much for being too far up. If you recognize that, okay, Promise is a list all the way to the tier 2 tower, let's call this one. Let's back up. There's no ultimate for Jangaru available. Back up. Don't get punished by this chase. They did good and find the kill onto layers, shut that one down. That's some good gold bounty in their pockets. Finally, we're seeing a decent response coming out from the Sage. So if they keep this up, they might still be in a good position. They can start looking towards this Fury, towards this next beacon. If they get there as a full unit, not in a terrible situation. Promise doesn't have the ultimate. This is possibly the best time the Sages could look to try to get a beacon here.
So far, it does appear the Weavers do value that, as they've got 3 members around here. InMyZen with them. Nayhoo will tell them, hey, there's a bunch of them there, but the rest of the Sages don't seem too concerned about it. There are pings towards the Fury, but the Weavers still have that covered as well. Privative goes on in for the summon sticks, washes over everyone else, but no one's really too worried about it. Now Trypno with Kingslayer pushes everyone away. It's a full 5v5 situation here over a beacon. Even so, both teams just disengage from it. Health bar's a little low. We'll see how everyone else can top themselves off.
That's a full 5-on-5 over a beacon that was already taken by the Weavers. Privative holds on to the ult a little bit too long there. Isn't able to get into that beacon before the 4th member shows up for the Weavers. Takes it right over. From there, it's actually impressive that no one ended up dying on either side. It's going to open up this Pyromancer a little bit more for the Weavers here. But we're starting to get into the later stages of the game here, Blur. And this is, to me, where the Sages draft starts to come online a little bit more. Double Hunter is incredibly good the later this game goes. It does look like they're both going for the same build, both opting. Say that
Okay.
Nayhoo straight into Remakami.
I like this. Oh, the knock-up! The knock-up was perfectly timed. This is the second time we've seen Nayhoo do something like this. Yeah, looking at it.
Are we not?
Tyrian Weavers, they head towards the Fury, but realize, no, we kind of can't. Their health bar's just a little too low. Not enough mana. Don't feel comfortable going for it. Nayhoo seems to be the linchpin right now for making things happen for the Sages. As the Weavers, is that something you now have to pay attention to? Do you just say, we fight Nayhoo, or what's the game plan?
Really, you can take either Hunter out of the equation. Nayhoo is, of course, going to be a little bit more active just because he has global presence in the mid lane. Very easy to make rotations from there. But Renjaru is also scaling up right alongside him. He's a little bit behind Nayhoo right now. Doesn't have quite as much gold. About to level down on him. But that's okay. He's not going against Nayhoo. He's up on InMyZen, and Zen up in the air.
Good Valkyrie's discretion, buys themselves some time. Promise just about gets the River's Rebuke off in return. It's now Hades looking to try and answer as a frontline, but no tank stats means they're relying on sustain to get through. As Layers dives deep into the backline, Trypno picks up Renjaru, and they'll get themselves a double kill on Jangaru as well. So now Snaddy just about gets the ultimate off in time. The shield is getting chewed through. 4 members around. Zen credited with the kill. 3 members for 1. And Tyrian Weavers don't even go ahead and look back towards the Fury. They want a larger objective because they might be swinging over to fire.
This is risky. There's 2 still up for the Sage, but Nayhoo getting shredded. Health bar's not the best for the Weavers right now. If they try to go for this Fire Giant, that's a little bit risky, especially for Zen and Trypno. They don't care, though. They're going to go ahead and go for it. They've got 4 members. They've got some shred. Nayhoo ulting in. Local.
He's ulted in, but I don't think he can do much else here. There's still 5v4 situation. He's the only one around. And if he's not careful, he's just going to get run at when this Fire Giant goes down. It's now or never to try and actually get a secure off or steal. Now with Promise and the rest of the team, it's just too little too late. On the retreat now, Arthurian Weavers, Sages looking to try and answer any kind of a kill. But the best they can do right now is half health on Promise.
And Promise is running for his life. He should be able to get out of this one. That was a great route from Nayhoo, locking Remakami down on that fire ring. Forced him to take a defensive route out. And that's what opens up this push for the Sages now. Remakami had to take a step back.
Okay.
Now it's a siege on tier 2. They should be able to get this, but full 5 with fire. It's a little too risky. Oh, Snaddy.
Rig Rip Tide Layers. Dashes on through with the jet stream. Grabs a little bit. Now Pillars of Agony pulls into frontline. Nayhoo left alone for the 1v1. Privative ends up falling as well. It's a double kill. Both frontline falls down. It's a double-double. Trypno picks up Jangaru and Renjaru. A full house across the board. Mid and ADC. Clean house. And Fire Giant in tow. This is a big push now for the Weavers.
Phoenix absolutely drops here. If they burn this fast, they could even look, try to push more, but with towers still standing, tier 1s on both side lanes, I think it takes them a little bit too long to try to kill this Titan. Privative coming up. We'll have to see. No! Oh, wow, that's a lot of damage.
I don't think they can. Primitive's the only one up. River's Rebuke shuts them out. No way in, no way out of this one. Tyrian Weavers, 22-28 on the clock. One big team fight, and the game explodes open, Spooky.
It's just clinical from the Weavers there. Trypno was pretty quiet throughout that game, right? He got off to a 3-1 start, evened up to about 3-3, and we said, okay, well, we're saying Layer's name a lot. We're talking about Remakami. He just showed up in that last fight, though. You get all the attention pulled away from that set, and you can't afford to. He just ran through the rest of the team. He had so much space because everything was being put towards trying to push back Remakami, trying to push back Layers. InMyZen, Promise on the Yemoja, I think it was absolutely fantastic throughout this whole set. Set up so much for the team, create so much space, and lock down so many members. Weavers just weren't firing on all cylinders. They weren't all on the same page, it felt like. At the end of the day, Weavers were, and that's what was really the big difference maker.
I gotta agree here, and whether or not this would have been like, I look at that kind of a game and I think, oh, if it was a, if this was a best of 5, could the Athenian Sages come back? I think that would have been a 3-0 in their favor as well, because they just seemed so switched on. Because, like you said, this Yemoja pick did so much work. One Riptide again completely blows open the game for them. So it's all shoulda, couldas, and woulda-haves for the Sages here. We'll have to see next week whether or not they can get themselves a win anywhere. But with that said, that is it for your phase 2, week 1 side of things, on the NA side of things. I have been Supersonic Blur. Joining me has been the spookiest of the Marses. On the production side of things, we've had a lot of help on that, so thank you very much to everyone over there and to everyone else who's been watching this. We hope that you'll come back next week. But until next time, that's it from us. Take care.